it's funny, there's, I'm a push car guy, I love cars. And, I have friends because I know what I know. That, the new Chevy Corvette, either you hate it or you love it. I love it. How are you? I like it.
Casual Monday is the office.
I'm ready for the rodeo, aren't you?
Going Thursday.
But,
All right. Little bird flew by and dropped the tickets off on my head, and
creating my car
so that's Thursday.
Right?
I wanted to go, but that kind of dictated when I was going to go.
Thursday, dinner and a meal, or the VIP.
Oh, you might be in the same spot then.
I work there anyway, but one over here. Yeah, that's a pretty nice gesture. The other day, I saw a gun veteran council that one.
It sounded like they were threatening to go to Gooding or something. Because they didn't have the data infrastructure, and
now they do.
And now they
sure.
Caldwell Night Rodeo.
The Cowboy Channel. I came back from Pendleton that weekend. The slow feed. I went into a 45-mile-an-hour turn. So I had to cooperate with lots of people, I think the county, and then whoever had the pipe. And I didn't feel like
probably Syringa or
in it right now, or something. Danger.
You
ran it through a pipe.
There was some horse trading going on.
But now it's right. Constantly, just like the Formula 1 race, just pushing just like it's not doing this. Probably should have been done. So it's a little bit different. But
you can say that about a lot of things.
You can, yeah, you can. You can't catch up on all of them. I mean, there's always going to be something else. After you do A, B, and C, you got D, E, and F. A, B, and C, yep, you're right.
Enough small talk. I want to welcome everybody to the Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency meeting this evening. This is our regularly scheduled meeting for the month of August. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Porter?
Here.
Commissioner Doty?
Here.
Commissioner Warwick?
Here.
Commissioner Brooks?
Present.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Allgood is absent. Commissioner Garcia?
Here. Very good. As always, is there a conflict of interest among any of the things on the agenda for any of the council commission?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will move on to special presentations. I don't believe that we have any this evening. And I guess that's correct. Now is the time for public comments, where members of the public can address the agency on anything that's not on the agenda this evening, if you would like. Okay, seeing none, moves us to our consent calendar. Do we have a motion in regard to the consent calendar, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Doty. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Warwick. Any discussion? Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. Thank you. That takes us to our first item of old business, and that's to approve a resolution before us this evening authorizing the reallocation of East Urban Renewal Area project budget for the Festival Street. Ray Lynn, good evening.
Good evening. So as we talked at the last meeting, this resolution is really to allow me and other staff, such as Rob and Michelle, to reallocate some of the project budgets that as they start to go over budget, to dedicate some of those funds. The project list is included in your packet. It is as of last month, but one of the projects I wanted to bring to your attention that is already over budget is the 21st Avenue parking lot. You'll see that there's an invoice that's going to be requested to be approved. It's $156,000 over budget currently, and so this resolution would allow us to pay that invoice if you guys approve that invoice for payment. So that is what I'm requesting.
Okay, questions?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Doty.
how did we go 156,000 over budget? Didn't they give us a bid on their work?
I have to refer to Rob.
I'm kinda shocked that wouldn't have to come back here before we went to
Right,
$156,000
that's a lot.
over budget, but.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Doty, to answer your question, this project, what happened on this project was it was given to a project manager who is no longer with the city. And instead of bidding the entire project out as one project, he opted to break it up into parts. And then he had it scattered to different contractors. And then at that point, this individual left the city. And so I came back and I was trying to put all the pieces back together. And so we ended up doing some change orders to get one contractor back doing a lot of the work. And the way the project unfolded was not ideal. And I'll be the first to admit that. It's certainly not the way I would have done it. And I take responsibility. This happened under my watch, but it's been a large project and it's had some nuances to it. And it's something that, it's turned out the way it's turned out. I wouldn't say that, I don't think that the overages are unreasonable. I think because the project took a certain amount of time to complete because of the different contracts, some of the prices have gone up. And so some of the work that's being done now, that should have been contracted 2 years ago under the original contract. Costs of materials are different than they were then, and we have a lot of our, and now what's being done now, it's primarily done, except they're doing a lot of electrical work. They have to pull wire through the entire site, and they have to have all the bollards in and all that sort of thing. So that's about the best explanation I can give you. It's not how I would have certainly orchestrated this project, and we're just trying to, at this point, get it completed.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Doty?
So even if they were three separate projects, or how many there were, wasn't there a budget for each one of those projects? And we're still 156,000
Yeah.
over, so.
So
This isn't a small mistake, this is a pretty large.
No, and I understand that. So there was an original budget that was established, and when budgets are established before a project, it's based off of an estimate of what the current market is at that time. And so what happens is we set a budget 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and the project gets started. If the entire project had all been under one contract at that time, then that contractor would have been locked into that contract, and we would have known exactly what the budget was or what it needed to be, because the contract would have had a contract that's established with a cost. We had so the estimate that was set a couple of years ago was based on a number that was an estimate that we had generated. And so as the contracts rolled through later than that, then the estimate's almost obsolete because you're moving into different construction years and things aren't being done when they should be done. And so the estimate, because it went over, that doesn't mean that the project, the whole budget is based off the premise of an estimate. And so if the project goes over the estimate, it just means that the estimate initially was probably not correct or not accurate. And that would have been the estimate that this project manager had put together. And that's what we used to establish what we thought the project was going to cost. And so the actual cost of the project was more than what the estimate was initially. And so it wasn't budgeted properly. That's probably how I would explain that.
Yeah.
So it would have been significantly closer had he had it all bid out at the same time rather than in sections, right?
Yes, because not all the bids were initiated right at the beginning.
Right, yeah.
And that's one of the issues that we've had to deal with. And the other thing that I would note too is when you have different contractors working against each other, or they have to coordinate with each other and it's not all under one umbrella, then that makes a project less efficient. And I think because of that, we certainly had some time delays and things like that happened.
Mr. Chairman, I'd heard that over a year ago, exactly what he just explained, so I think it is what it is. And it's a good learning curve.
Yeah, if we didn't have anybody locked in, price-wise, there's nothing we can do about it now.
Mr. McDonald, was there some inadequacies in the work or the design in some of that too that was left?
No, there was one flaw in the design, and that was on the plans that were put together. And where the ADA curb is, the entire curb was supposed to be at grade so that people could get up on the sidewalk in a wheelchair. And that was all built as a 6-inch curb. And so that was a mistake that was
I heard about the ADA.
And that was
actually not displayed correctly on the plans, and so that was a design issue. The one other thing that, oh no, I blanked out. I was gonna mention something else before you had brought that up. If it comes to me, I'll point it out, but, oh, okay, I do have it now. But, so one of the issues that we've had, this was a project that was pushed really hard by the prior administration. One of the issues I feel like that we have dealt with on some of these projects that we need to correct, and one of the things that I would like to do better is to plan a project out a little better. The budget's only as good as the estimate, right? And so if we're required to provide an estimate before we really have a scope of work or before we have a full set of plans complete, then it's really just a shot in the dark, and it's not hard for a project to bid out and be over that budget. And the estimate is really, it's just a number that we're trying to put together. And so as we move forward on urban renewal projects and on city projects, it's really my intent to try to have better estimates initially and phase projects, not just all in one year, but phase them over the course of 2 or 3 years. So that first year we can get design done and then have an actual estimate generated by the designer so that we know exactly what to budget the following year so that we don't run into these types of situations.
Mr. Chairman, I think the work that's been done down there, from what I've seen, it looks pretty good. I think it's pretty functional, so it's conducive to what's going on down there.
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob. So Raylan, let me see if I can recap this and correct me where I'm wrong. We're basically defunding the Festival Street portion of our projects in order to use those resources toward the ongoing USTIC project. Am I correct?
Not only the USIC project, but any other project that does go over budget, which what I plan on doing is adding another column that allows for an original budget and then any additional amount that we do change it to, so that you guys are aware of any additional amount that I do add to the project budgets. This allows for transparency in the project budgets. The reason why Festival Street that project was chosen, because it has not gone out to RFP, is not under contract, and there is that urgency, obviously, to get those funds spent before the end of the fiscal year, so.
Very good, thank you. Well, do we have a motion in regard to this action item to approve a resolution authorizing the reallocation of East Urban Renewal Area project budget for the Festival Street?
I move we approve that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Warwick, a second by Mr. Moore. Any further conversation? Okay, would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Voter?
Yes.
Commissioner Cody?
Yes. Very good. Thank you. That brings us to our new business. The first item is a public hearing pursuant to Idaho Code 50-1002 for consideration of the proposed budget for the fiscal year that begins October 1st and ends September 30th, 2024. This was presented to us by Ray Lynn last month, and Ray Lynn is here for some more questions if we have them.
I'll just do a quick overview of the budget as it fits. So the proposed expenditures are $391,274. The proposed non-increment tax revenue is $84,000, and the proposed increment tax revenue is $85,000 for a total revenue of $169,000. And the use of fund balance would be $222,274. So we would have total, so that's kind of how the revenue and expenditures, this is a balanced budget before you, so. This does not include any funds for the East Urban Renewal allocation area. However, I will just say with a caveat that, actually, never mind. This does not include any funds for East Urban Renewal allocation area.
Okay, any questions for Ray Lynn? Okay. I don't see anybody here from the public, looking to make comment. Do you know if anybody has signed up? Okay, looks like we have no one, signed up in favor, neutral, or against, so do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Warwick, a second by Mr. Doty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. So we will take up the, item of the resolution. Do we have a motion considering resolution of approving the budget for fiscal year beginning October 1st?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Doty.
Second.
Tie goes to the lady. Second by Ms. Warwick. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. Very good. Thanks, Ray Lynn. Moving on to, action item number 3, consider resolution authorizing the execution of a feasibility study for proposed new urban renewal allocation area. We referenced this during our workshop a little bit earlier, and Ray Lynn is back for another swing at it.
Get to hear from me a lot tonight.
Yeah.
This is for the agreement with Fairwater Financial for $35,000 for the feasibility study. We're talking with Mark. These potentially could come out of increment funds. So as a project, if that is something that you're wanting to do.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Doty.
And this may be for Mr. Hilty, I'm not sure. Is that what we normally do before this has been discussed with council?
Yeah, we need to, the feasibility study is part of this that needs to be done. It had originally a 2-month lead time. I think we're down to about 6 weeks. And it's gonna be less than that because they need that finalized project list and the cost estimates for them to get started. So I think we probably are a little ahead of where we need to be, but we do need to get it going and at least get it under contract.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Doty.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. Do we normally do those before it goes to council for their opinion? So like if it goes to council and they go, we don't want to do this at all, now we're tied up $35,000 for a feasibility study so is that the norm? Is that what we typically do before it goes to council?
Yeah, no, I understand the question, and I don't remember, frankly, when we did
Fair
it.
enough.
The one was done 30 years ago or 20 years ago. The other that we just did for the north area, my memory was we had LJ Waite do that. He was involved sort of throughout the process and then, got into the heavy lifting, later in the process. So I don't think it was probably clearly articulated. He was involved in some other, doing some other work associated with the formation of that north area too. So it's kind of a non-answer. My apologies.
Thank you.
And I think what makes this unique is we're kind of looking at the calendar too. We'd like to have this allocation area established before the end of the year so we can freeze that tax base. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Moore?
is that a $3,500 expense or a $35,000 expense that Councilman Doty just said?
It's $35,000.
Oh,
And it's because the feasibility study would be done by September 30th.
right. Yeah. Have that in order to.
Any other questions? Further discussion? Well, do we have a motion in regard to this, resolution?
Make a motion, we approve the $35,000 feasibility study
We have a motion.
allocation area.
I second that. Motion by Mr. Moore, a second by Mr. Garcia. Any final comments or questions? Okay, would the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Very good. Believe it or not, Ray Lynn, we're back to you. Action item number 4, to consider invoices for payment.
Awesome. So for this month, I will tell you that your list for invoices is gonna get a little bit longer. Instead of doing quarterly invoices, Rochelle and I are now doing monthly invoices for the city so that we can stay on top of them. So the list is gonna stay pretty long every month, so just so that you guys are aware. $9,805 for July attorney services, $179,064.31 for Project 4, June Fair Expo building improvements, $101,302.58 for Project 4, the July Fair Expo building, $795 for Project 8, $18,000 for the August Economic Development contributions, $31.74 for Project 16, $33,932.20 for Project 2, $4,775.72 for Project 18, $142,492.88 for Project 5, $91,594.35 for Project 22, $173,329 for Project 24, $156,597.72 for Project 13, $42,547.39 for Project 21, $40,747.59 for Project 1, $20,286 for Project 11, $2,870 for Project 26, $34,271.04 for Project 9, and $27,460.59 for Project 9, for a total of $1,079,903.11.
Very good. Would you like to repeat that? It's funny every month, isn't it? Okay. Do we have any questions for Ray Lynn? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Doty?
I make a motion that we consider the invoices for payment from the Urban Renewal Agency Treasurer and approve their payment.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Doty,
Second.
second by Ms. Warwick. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. Takes us to our treasurer report and approval of the monthly cash reconciliation report.
So as you can see, this month we did get our bigger payment from the county of $3,427,404.69. Some of these are a little bit, it's a little bit smaller than the payment in January, but sometimes it kind of evens out among the months. Our interest was $18,973.40. And so that's kind of to be expected. It's starting to go down because our balance is starting to go down, not because the interest amount is actually going down. And for the East Urban Renewal, our total balance is $15,199,656.43. And then we do have still one remaining bond. However, that should be paid off here soon. And that received an interest deposit of $3,101.36. And it currently has a balance of $760.31. So.
Okay, questions for Ray Lynn? We have a motion to approve the monthly cash reconciliation report.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mrs. Warwick.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Very good.
Awesome.
Thank you. That takes us to the update report of the project list. Is that you again?
That is me again.
Right.
As you can see, we're starting to, Project 12 with the Usick Road widening for the city's portion is 0. And so we have moved up to the Project 1. And so, Rochelle and I do think that Usick Road widening is going to go over that project budget. And so that is one of the main reasons why the Plaza extension. but there's a couple of these projects that have USIC road lining, like Project 25, and Project 20. And so we will also use those funds as well for the USIC road widening project as they start coming in. The 21st Avenue, which that invoice that we just approved will go against that. And then, just a couple updates on some of these that you see have not had any spending at all. We did find a couple issues in GL account issues, so we are researching and making sure that the coding issues within our system, that we're making sure that we're getting all of these invoices and that they're not just getting, like, that we're actually tracking them down and that they're not just getting paid by the city and then, lost. So that's something that we found out that was happening with some of the projects, and so we're tracking those down and making sure that they're getting coded to urban renewal, so. It should be closing out some of these. The other ones that we're looking into is like the Westfield and getting those under contract. So that's kind of making sure that all of these are obligated and, under contract as well. So that's all I kind of have.
Any questions for Raylene on the project list?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Mr. Moore?
So let me ask this, what's the protocol or what's the procedure if we start to see something that looks like a 21st Avenue parking lot overage and it's starting to, show that we're going to be severely over? Who do we call? What do you do?
Well, what do I do? So I contacted Rob, I contacted Jim, first Rochelle contacted me, and because what was happening is that the city was just going to pick up that cost. And I was like, well, we need to, look at this procedure. We need to see what's happening first before the city just automatically pick that up, because that's a lot of money. And so, I talked to Rob, and the city is in the process of reviewing our, internal policies to make sure that project costs are looking at different options. So that projects like this don't have that type of over budget either, so.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job on all this.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Doty?
just to add on, I think that's some of the frustration. It's currently not with those in place now, but we're canceling quite a large project because almost every project's over budget. So when they lock in their bid, we should hold them to that, or at least have the wording in the contracts that lock them to that bid and get the work started right away, not 2 years down the road. I mean, what's the it's 3-point-some million we're having to cancel, right? To cover all of these overages on all of these. So I don't want to start someone winning the bids that can go 156,000 over, and I get that's different. And just bid 20,000 on something and then just bill us for hundreds of thousands of dollars and say, well, we just went over.
I agree. I think you can only put so much on inflation and the cost of things going up over the course of the project. And it needs to be looked at with a sharp pencil.
Yeah, that's where you have a bid.
Correct.
There's always gonna be change orders to that bid,
Correct.
but it should be minimal.
Right up front.
Thanks, Raylene.
Thanks.
Good job.
Rob, is there anything on the project list that you want to update us on? I mean, could you tell us anything about what's going on there on USTIC all the way around and give us some light at the end of the tunnel?
Hope.
Yeah.
Is anything ever gonna get done?
There is light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of our USTIC projects are plowing through pretty well, and we actually are proposing, we should have Florida and USTIC open probably within the next couple of weeks. It's already been paved, and they just have to go through and do all the striping and coloring. And so that's going to be a big deal, and that, of course, was partially urban renewal and part city. Indiana and USTIC is a couple of weeks behind that, so that one's probably still 4 to 5 weeks out before completion. And then the main portion, the Boulevard and USTIC Road, is supposed to be substantially complete by the end of September. So that means all the lanes will be open. They'll still be doing work outside of the roadway on landscape and things like that, but it should be mostly done. So those are some of the some of the better updates. Middleton and Ustick that project is a federal project, as everybody knows, not urban renewal, and that one's not scheduled to open until November sometime.
Rob, on my second favorite, project is, the pickleball, area completed.
So as far as I know, the pickleball project is not completed. They were supposed to be done by the 8th, and so every day that they go past that, they are being penalized financially. And so they are trying to get it done, but there's the guys that are supposed to finish the court and stripe it were on another project somewhere else, and so I think they're trying to get done as quick as they can.
Mr. Chairman, I went down there and looked at it. It looks pretty nice.
It does. It really does. Very good. Thanks, Rob. Brings us to our economic development reports, and Mr. Jenkins.
Chairman, Commissioners, good evening. Here to bring you some good news, hopefully, with some updates here. I hate to follow up on the pickleball deal, but we will get through that. We will absolutely get through that, that's for sure. So for July, we had a busy July. Things are starting to pick up a little bit. We're seeing a slowdown in inflation and an improvement in the supply chain activity. So that's helped a little bit, I think, as far as development is concerned. So North Ranch, ICCU, they broke ground on their branch out there, 7,765 square feet. This is last week, but now a few weeks ago. So work continues to progress also on in the Come and Go on the corner of Smead and Highway 2026. That'll be Idaho's first. So we're really excited to welcome Come and Go into our market officially. And then the tenant improvements for the retail building, they continue to progress. Fat Guy's Fresh Deli is located on the corner there, and they have a drive-through, and they're hoping to be open in the next 45 days. So good update on that one. So North Ranch holistically is about 100% spoken for. So we're getting really close to filling that 114 acres in, and plans are emerging for the full build out of the area. And then the Sky Ranch, the city went ahead and removed the islands that were creating just some blight as it relates to maintenance and weeds and just those types of things. We were really struggling with that. So making sure the upkeep in Sky Ranch was up to a high level was important for us. So we removed those. And then they're also causing issues for trucks traveling through the area. We anticipate more truck traffic activity, so that was pretty important to get ahead of that. And then Highline Industrial Park, this is on KCID in Linden. They broke ground on Building 1, which is 214,200 square feet. The build-out will include 9 buildings on the 150 acres. That's just east of the airport. Project Titanic, we had a site visit with this group. They came to us out of the Midwest. They'll be visiting the area once more this month, and when I wrote this, I said this month. They'll actually be here on Thursday. They're investigating broader development opportunities in our downtown core. And then a national burrito chain, they're going to open in the old Popeyes building. So they'll look to open in September. And the road construction, they're trying to line up their grand opening with the completion of that road construction. So we're trying to get Rob and his team geared up for that. But they've been great, of course. And I think all the businesses around that area are. I need to stop picking on Rob. The businesses in that area are looking forward to seeing that, but they're trying to tee up all their grand openings with that construction. And then Prospector Point, you may have noticed they broke ground. They're right off of Franklin and I-84. They broke ground in the first phase, which will include 264 apartment units. They also will have 60,000 square feet of commercial space within the project. The total build out is 504 residential units. So pretty significant project there. Project Bright, they're a large industrial user. They'll bring high-tech jobs to the Caldwell region. They're moving forward with plans and reviewing state and county incentives available for their project. Project Richard, they're considering a large-scale project in Caldwell, looking to fill voids in the Caldwell community that will cater to Canyon County and beyond. So they're hoping to be a major amenity here to create, to amenitize their project and really just expand opportunities throughout Canyon County. Project Avery, they're a retailer interested in the Caldwell region, had a visit with them just a few weeks ago. They're a strong brand in the Treasure Valley and throughout the Mountain West, and they're considering an opportunity downtown. They are actually looking at bringing some office space downtown, Class A office space. And I've noticed within the reports that I've read of late, that space that's 5,000 square feet or smaller is starting to lease up pretty actively. and regularly throughout the Boise metro. So I think it's important that we continue to expand office space opportunities in downtown. Project Paces, they're a large retailer. They're still highly interested in Caldwell, looking at numerous sites. Project Lansing, they're seeking a contractor for the project. Construction actually has kicked off for this project. They're right off of Aviation in the Sky Ranch Business Park. They're doing the groundwork right now. The VA clinic, they're moving into their new building in August. Genesis Healthcare, they're a group out of Ada County. They're purchasing the former VA clinic building in Sky Ranch, and they'll expand their clinic operations in Canyon County. And then Project Yonke, they're working on a site plan. They have identified a site in East Caldwell. Really excited to welcome this brand into the community. So I'm thrilled to share that this big retailer is coming into our market that will certainly help with our commercial needs. So I'll be able to announce that here shortly, hopefully. Federated Ordnance, they're working on a wave of hires. Really since July, jobs are starting to be filled at $25 an hour. They're working on other investments within their building as well. So excited to see all that they'll bring to Caldwell. And then North Caldwell, we have Project P&W. They've inquired about annexation, so communication is starting to pick back up. Really excited to hear back from them. And then annexation as a whole, we're expecting an application for annexation in the very near future for that next property that's supposed to connect us with the other properties within the area. So hopeful for that to happen sooner than later. And then we have a downtown, so shifting to downtown really quickly, we have a paid parking RFP that was issued a few weeks ago, and it is due on Wednesday, this Wednesday, August 16th. I've had inquiries everywhere from Chicago to Phoenix to Charlotte, I mean, all over the country. So I'm eager to see what we get back on Wednesday. I'll be happy to share that information. And then we had a hotel RFP that closed on August 11th, which was this past Friday. I was excited to have the proposal that we received on that one. So I'll share more information on that in the near future. But good things to come for the city. And then Brookings determined, so this is just an institution, they do research, they're based out of Washington, D.C. They determined that $470 billion in private industrial investments have been announced since 2021. Here in Idaho, it's concentrated mostly on semiconductors, thanks to Micron, of course, and electronics, while in the South, you're seeing more clean energy and EV battery production. And then new private investments are concentrated in the southern United States at 42%. The Mountain West was right behind at 25%. And then the other West Coast cities were certainly lagging. So really it's the Mountain West and the Southeast that you see contributing pretty heavily to our GDP of late. And with that, that is all I have. Unless there are any questions for me.
Any questions for Steve?
Exciting, very exciting.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Stephen real quickly. So what do you, I mean, this thing just keeps going, right? What's the biggest common denominator you see in this thing? Keep rolling forward, but when you're out there?
So Chairman, Commissioner, I would say that really because Caldwell has had such strong momentum, we're seeing projects that were planned just continuing to progress. We had so much on the books. We had seen a stall in projects, and I think that was consistent across the valley and across the region. But now we're starting to see some of those projects that were stalled hit the books again.
Right.
So now it's just this collective energy of momentum that we have, and I think it's gonna help us to surge into the next few years of growth and activity. As I drive around the valley, of course, you see a lot of activity in Boise and downtown Boise, and certainly in Meridian. And I would say Caldwell is right there with them in terms of what's happening construction-wise and what we have that's forthcoming.
My observation is the same thing. I drive around in 2026 and start looking at things because I feel like I'm a little out of touch at what's going on at this pace that it's going on, and it's just amazing what's transpiring. And I think there's a big common denominator of being able to do business easy or easier in this area.
Absolutely. I agree.
Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I know it's not our project out on 2026. Anybody have any idea when we're gonna look at least between Smead and the freeway, getting that wrapped up? Anybody have any idea?
So the ITD, the expansion.
That's a horrific mess out there every single day.
Yes, it is. I don't know the exact timeline. I know that they have the project phased out and they're doing some sections at a time. It's hard to tell when they're going to be completed out there. I know that it was estimated to be an 18-month project, I believe, 18-month to 24. And I think they've been into it for, I don't know, some time now, 9 months maybe. I suspect it's still gonna be a while, and then they have to push traffic over and do the other side, and so there's a lot of shifting that has to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised, if we're still in this same situation in the spring.
I was afraid of. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Chip. Ophelia. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. I also have exciting news to share. So Project Air is still looking for space. Unfortunately, we cannot find that 60,000 square feet that meets their needs, but they're not giving up on Caldwell yet. Again, they're alumni of College of Idaho, so they really want to bring their product to our community. Project 9, they have identified a building, and now we're working with the agent that represents the building and a local bank to obtain a loan. So that's still moving forward. Project Ranch is a local, looks like this one's a local retail store seeking larger space. We've identified a couple of spaces. Unfortunately, the space that we have identified is in 5,000 square feet at a monthly rate of $10,000. So it gets a little costly there for these smaller retail shops. Project Local, this project had to halt due to construction costs being extremely high. They were looking at getting additional quotes to see if they can get the cost down. If not, they will build at a later date. They have purchased land, and it is a great local restaurant in our community. So hoping that some of those quotes come in their favor and they can get buildings. I think the entire community will be excited for this project. Project Juice, it's a well-established Caldwell restaurant that was seeking to open another concept. They're in our downtown community, and they had identified an area of opportunity to offer services in our downtown community. However, we explored a couple other spaces throughout the city of Caldwell, and they actually decided to pursue another area of Caldwell right after 2026. Again, the momentum happening there, and the amount of jobs in that area, and the lack of food in that area. So that's where they're focusing. New projects. Project East is a retail concept that is very popular in the eastern part of the U.S. Local business owners, again, looking to open this concept in our downtown. Unfortunately, not too many spaces available in our downtown that lend itself to this sort of concept. Project Educate. It's a retail concept that is hoping to be the second of its kind in our downtown. We have identified some space, and with this type of retail, they do have an organization that is very involved, and so they have some funding opportunities for this type of project. Project Leaf is an investor, business owner, entrepreneur seeking to purchase buildings in our downtown or near downtown to open up new businesses. They've currently purchased one building. Again, these are local individuals from our community that want to continue to be part of the revitalization part of Caldwell. And then just to end, there's some plaza sightings. Hopefully you've all had a chance to take a look at Norbert, the rock dragon, about 200 painted rocks. It's a project through Caldwell Fine Arts, and it was a community project. And another plaza sighting, if you've been to Extreme Pizza, if you've seen that popular Angel Wing Pizza, they've added some infrastructure art to the gas meters by Extreme Pizza, so some silly monster faces, interactive art in that little area. And that concludes my report for the month of July. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thanks. Any questions for Ophelia?
Mr. Chair. Do we have any idea if there are any plans yet for the Rediscovered Books building?
That building is on the market for $2,450,000. They've had a lot of interest. There was a local restaurant that has looked at that space for food, a concept that we don't have in downtown that we're lacking. So really excited about that. She's open to selling or just keeping it as well. Probably looking at $24 a square foot is what we're looking at right now in terms of lease rates in our downtown. But yes, there's been a lot of interest in that space. Thank you. Absolutely.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Good job.
Brings us to our attorney report, Mr. Hilty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. We'll start with the Aztec Development Project. We had a meeting this afternoon on that. As you know, following our last meeting, I had sent a 60-day notice of default letter because we were out of our scheduled performance and not moving anywhere on that project. That had been the case for some time. One of the provisions of the DDA requires a meeting within 30 days to discuss any alleged problem with performance. And so that meeting took place this afternoon, and Mr. Chairman attended it via Zoom with me. Mr. Sanga sort of owned that recent delays are his fault. That was a little bit new. His ask was to determine whether the agency would be willing to give him an additional 2 years on the project to allow the current market conditions to sort of resolve themselves, make it easier for him to proceed. I told him that I would pass that along and that the answer was going to be no. So correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a no for me.
No for me.
I guided the discussion in 2 ways. Under the contract, the real purpose of the conversation was to find out how to get him back into compliance. And so remember, we've been looking at trying to get to the point where we have some hard deadlines reestablished. I said if we had a closing within 90 days of today, that'd be in early November. Now, there's a lot of things that have to fall into place before we can close, and then there's some deadlines that would have to be set after that, but that would be a good benchmark for us to work both backward and forward from, that is something that I could in good faith recommend to the agency. We also talked very pointedly again about terminating, just simply walking away. This would then be folded into the new area that we're talking about as one of those projects that Stephen mentioned that may not make it. So at some point then in the future, we'd be looking at another RFP. They were going to talk about that seriously. It sounded like, in fact, at some point that without some kind of a 2-year delay, that's the direction he would be leaning. I suspect we'll get some sort of proposal from them for an amended schedule of performance that may or may not be satisfactory. And if it's not, then potentially we'd be looking at termination. I will know more at the next meeting. So our meeting in September probably will have some action items surrounding what we do next, either an amended schedule performance or potentially termination.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Doty?
Mr. Hilty, do we have to give him that time? I mean, we've given him time, and now another 90 days. Can we just end it now with him? And I just don't have any faith, just like I've said previously, that he's going to get anything done in the next 90 days.
The answer to that is we have to give him the 60 days. We're about halfway through that.
Okay.
And so that'll be potentially one of the action items if we get to the point where we're 60 days through and we don't have a cured default, which would be we don't have any way back to a schedule. Then that would be one of the options for the agency.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Mr.
Sorry, Mr. Hilty, did they state why they needed I mean, is that top secret information, or
No.
what was a 2-year extension in request of?
What he mentioned, and Jim, you can certainly fill in if I don't have my notes with me. He was talking about the difficulty with lending and the lending cost, and
Right.
it was 9 or 10% interest. He talked about $105,000 a month to just finance the loan. That would be, separate from construction costs. And so there's some financial concerns with the lending market right now, which is what he was primarily mentioning. He also said he didn't know that a 3-story project would work, and he didn't know about a 5-story project. I reminded him that what we're really working from is a 7-story project. There's no way that's going to work. So, so we're still in flux on design, which is another reason why we may not get there. And we've got to ride out this 60 days. But it was primarily surrounding the availability of financing, and then not only that, but it had to do with the feasibility of the project as well. And it sounds like he's not quite sure what scope of project will be feasible. Where he's at right now, that will also require the agency to take another look at design, which he hasn't even suggested, what an amended design might look like.
I think it was pretty transparent and pretty apparent that rates were going to go up for some time. So, yeah, it's too bad.
I did mention, I said you have lost the confidence of the entire Board of Commissioners. And I said, every item that you've cited as causing delays are something that every other developer is working around and working with, and they're still pedal to the metal.
Correct.
So you're not in a unique situation.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions on Aztec? All right, stay tuned.
That's what we hear.
The Ono project, is moving forward. There's a meeting on that, Ophelia, Thursday? Friday. I'm gonna be out of town, but that is gonna be well manned by, staff. They're gonna talk about, design issues on that, moving toward final design, I think. The schedule performance, I think they have some parking questions and stuff, but they are asking questions relevant to getting their project into the next phase of construction. Had a meeting, early in the month with the county commissioners, regarding this issue with respect to tax penalties and interest. That the meeting was, we didn't make much progress. There had been some untimely vacations in the county attorney's office, and their attorney showed up without having seen the analysis that I'd provided them as to why those tax interest and penalties should be paid over to the city, or sorry, to the agency. So I resent the letter to the attorneys that were there. There was going to be a follow-on meeting, I think, an executive session, so those attorneys could share their take on the law with the commissioners, and then they were going to reschedule a meeting with us. It was the chairman and I that attended, and Raylene, we may have you attend that next meeting as well. There certainly wasn't any decisions made. The impression that I got from the commissioners was that they were very interested in resolving this based on whatever the legal analysis is. My impression has been that we got off on this foot without much regard to what the law is, and without much communication about what was going to happen. And again, that goes back to the early 90s, and that is not a reflection on virtually anybody that works at the county today. But looking forward to getting that one resolved. TS Development is the development kind of kitty corner here at 510 Arthur. We have been looking, as you know, a part of that is the vacation of the Arthur Street right-of-way, and part of that is where can we vacate. And we've been looking at legal descriptions, parking designs, particularly at the break between what will be vacated in favor of their plaza concept versus what is still needed on 6th Street. There's some utility lines that need to be addressed. So it's a little bit of a complicating factor. We have now a legal description that will allow some additional design features to go forward. They have an open communication with the reuse appraiser, which means that the reuse appraisal is going forward and that we're all sort of looking toward closing on that. The other thing that is a to-do list here in the next 30 days is when that property is vacated and transferred, there's a portion of it that will be virtually theirs under the footprint of their building. Okay, and so think of where that parking lot is now toward the creek. The part of it that's essentially in front of the church, right, as you head down towards the TVCC building and the bridge, that is going to be owned by TS Development, but it is going to be a plaza. And so along with the vacation of the right-of-way, there's going to be some conditions that we have to work out that provides for it to be generally a public space. Now, they will be able to close it down for special events at times, and we're going to kind of work the parameters of that, but it's not being transferred to them so that they could sell it or that they could build on it. They're going to have to use it as an open space consistent with their design indefinitely. So, super great team to work with at TS Development. They're ones that would be nice to see this project succeed and see if they have further interest in downtown Caldwell. Last item is the Tillian project. There's a meeting, I believe we got it set for the 22nd of August. Two topics in that meeting. One is a parking agreement that really actually involves the city more than the agency. And that parking agreement's got a few issues to iron out, but that's the primary purpose for the meeting. And then we'll talk, as we mentioned last month when they appeared with respect to this hotel phase, we were given some instructions on what to talk to them about in terms of what a modification of that phase two might look like. And I think Stephen mentioned in his report, or maybe during the workshop. But we'll be having that discussion with them on the 22nd, and then bringing back certainly a report about, I don't know that we'll have it ready for an action item on an amendment. It kind of depends on how the meeting goes, but that certainly will be up for discussion. Any questions on the Tillian project? All right. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Very good. Any questions on, the entire package there?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
Blaine and Kimball, the hole we have at Blaine and Kimball?
That's one, Stephen can give you the update. He's been in
Okay.
communication with the developers. I've been that's been on hold while the, demolition occurred, but I know that that's behind us now. Do you have an RRC update, Stephen?
Yes, I do. And this group is also one that is eager to get the ball rolling on the project. They're working with our engineering team to kind of finalize the process for the demolition. There had been a little bit of a delay on the demolition side of things to fill the site with compaction, just to make sure it's prepared for future development. But RRC, they actually have tenants for the building in place as we speak. So they are eager to move plans ahead, and they had a roundtable meeting with the city as well, just to get an update on their proposed construction and what that would look like from the development perspective. So we were able to weigh in from the city side, and there were adjustments that were made, and so they're in a really good place to proceed. Rob, I don't know if there's anything that you've heard from regarding the Blaine and Kimball property that was demolished by Ideal Demolition there, as far as the site being prepared for.
Yeah, the only delay was because of the groundwater that they hit, trying to pull that basement out. They were having trouble trying to figure out how to compact it and and backfill it so that it would meet structural requirements for the new development. And so there was a delay there because they had to get a geotech out there to analyze it, and that's what some of that delay's been.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
A lot cheaper too.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification, Stephen and Rob. Takes us to our commissioner reports. Anybody with something to report this evening?
The rodeo might be this week.
You don't say. Okay, all right.
Everyone knew, in case they were.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
it's a big
Buckaroo
meeting.
Breakfast, 90th Annual, that starts in the morning, goes through Saturday.
Early.
What time does that?
That starts at 7 in the morning and serve until 10 o'clock.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I have nothing to report, other than, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Doty, second by Ms. Warwick. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, everybody. Much appreciated.